We begin with health news today as there has been an increase in COVID-19 cases in Guyana that health officials say could be the start of a new wave of infections. The Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, reported an increase of 21 cases over a 24-hour period in one instance. The number of active cases has now passed 70. He says there not only has been a spike in cases, but an increase in hospitalizations as well. And he has urged Guyanese to get their COVID-19 booster shots and continue to take the steps to protect themselves.
We have also seen increases in the hospital from 0 to now having 6 persons in hospital. And of the 6 that are in hospital, we have 3 persons in the ICU, with one of those persons being intubated. So the point here is that COVID is not over. I know a lot of people would want to think so, but we are now having increase in cases despite low levels of testing.
The Minister of Health said the increase in cases is alarming as there's very few cases and no hospitalizations just a few days ago. Dr. Anthony also expressed the concern that the number of actual cases is not known as a result of people testing for COVID-19 at home and not reporting them.
We can't validate or verify whether these persons are positive or not. Some people might use that to stay away from work. Others might very well be positive and they're doing the right thing by staying away. But the ministry cannot validate that unless you come to one of our testing sites where we can test people. If persons test positive with a kit, then we'll have to, it would be good if they share that with us, and so that we can at least have the numbers of positives.
Meantime, according to a report from the CDC, the flu is spreading fast across the United States. Most of the worst respiratory illnesses are found in southern states such as Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia. However, the flu is starting to ramp up as other areas such as Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas are starting to see cases. Experts say this type of widespread activity has not been recorded in the U.S. in more than a decade. Young children and older adults are more at risk for complications from viral infections. Puerto Rico's government will open an office in the Bronx for the Puerto Rican community. Governor Kathy Hochul and Congressman Richie Torres were part of the announcement and recognized that Puerto Ricans now have a new space full of vital services. Francis Felix has the story.
Governor of Puerto Rico Pedro Pierluisi and Governor of New York Kathy Hochul signed a memorandum of understanding to make it easier for Puerto Ricans in that state to process government documents without the need to travel to the island. Congressman Richie Torres and Carmen Feliciano, Executive Director of the Puerto Rico Federal Affairs Administration, were present during the announcement.
It just makes sense to have us reopen a Puerto Rico Federal Affairs Administration office right in New York. And Puerto Ricans come, they have many hurdles to deal with, records, government documents, birth certificates, marriage licenses. And the office closed back in 2017. I believe at the time it was even back in Times Square. Why was this in Times Square in the first place? So let's take it to a place where there's a larger concentration of people who would take advantage of these services. So I'm really looking forward to the brilliant idea, and thank you, Congressman Torres, for that's part of our diner conversation. I remember us having this conversation, but just make it a smart, sensible place where people don't have to travel thousands of miles to get records they need for school or jobs or everyday life.
This new office will help ease the burden of locating important records and documents for Puerto Ricans in and around New York. The agreement establishes that Puerto Rico Federal Affairs Administration will be able to use an office inside the New York Department of Labor building, located in the Bronx, to assist Puerto Ricans in the process of requesting and delivering documents such as birth, death, marriage, and support certificates, among others. The office will also serve to validate public documents that can be used abroad and will provide guidance on the procedures and services offered by Puerto Rico's government. Congressman Torres highlighted the importance of these services for the Puerto Rican community in the state of New York. Puerto Ricans who live in New York and require the center's services may take an appointment by accessing Puerto Rico Federal Affairs PR.gov. Governor Hochul took advantage of the occasion to present the signed proclamation that decrees November as Puerto Rican Heritage Month in New York. Reporting from San Juan, Puerto Rico, Frances Felix.
The weather hampered travel on what's traditionally one of the busiest weekends of the year. The TSA screened more than 2 million passengers on Saturday is FlightAware's misery map. Right now, the worst delays are flights from New York to Los Angeles. CBS's Danya Marcus has more at LAX.
Jam-packed airports, maxed out parking lots, and pricey tickets. That's what travelers face when flying for Thanksgiving this year. Nearly 55 million people are expected to be on the move with the holiday rush already on.
What was your experience like in Seattle at that airport?
Seattle was totally busy. There were people everywhere, huge lines for security, for baggage claim. A lot of tempers started to flare.
Airlines are trying to prevent the cancellation chaos of last Thanksgiving by adding more pilots and adjusting schedules. But the crowds aren't the only thing frustrating some flyers. The price of an airline ticket has jumped 43% from a year ago.
I used all my points and it was around $670. Without my points, it would have been well over $1,000.
Despite higher airfares, demand remains strong with air travel up about 8% from 2021. For many families, flying takes plenty of planning and patience.
With 3 kids, it's hard, but we made it. Forgot the cell phone in the car. We tried to plan for it, but it didn't work out.
The majority of Americans are skipping the skies by taking road trips, but filling up still cost about 36 cents a gallon more than a year ago. Now, AAA says the busiest time on the roads is expected next Wednesday as millions try to make it home in time for that Thanksgiving meal. And for flyers, the worst time to be at any airport is expected next Sunday. Danya Backus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And with Thanksgiving just being days away, those who have to travel to celebrate might be wondering how to transport their meals properly. Well, don't worry, the TSA is here to help. If you check out their What Can I Bring feature on their website, you'll see they recommend you avoid bringing food that can spill, spread, or spray. If the meal is larger than 3.4 ounces, put it in your checked luggage. If you do need to keep that food cold, ice packs are permissible, but it must be frozen solid when going through security. Some of the food you can bring that are no issues include baked goods, meats like turkey and ham, and cooked or uncooked stuffing. Some foods to avoid, anything with liquids like cranberry sauce, homemade gravy, and wine. And remember that food items often need additional security screening, so put them in an easily accessible place and give yourself enough time to get through security.